So, hey everyone, welcome. I don't usually do this, Tom, but I went on like 2 minutes ago, put up a little, hey, we're coming together in 2 minutes to remind everybody to get their tea or whatever you drink. So, I might start trying to do that in the future, but I'm pleased to report I tried it last week, but I was having some issues. So, I finally, and to everybody, anybody who's watching, thrilled to have you with us. I finally pinned the YouTube page to the top of our group for convenience
Right.
if anybody wants to go ahead and watch them after the fact, right? Or even if, I mean, this is the real world. Sometimes what happens is that the topic doesn't resonate with you in the moment, but then something's going on and it does. So maybe it's a good time to go back and rewatch, right? Because every week when we get together, we're always sharing tools and tricks and something different that you could hopefully apply at some time. Because our brain is like a sponge. We only need so much. Then we squeeze it out. Mm.
Yeah. And it's interesting. We talked a while ago about triggering and
Mm.
triggering, when I'm working with people, it could always feel like we had that sheet, but it could be a negative. It could be a smell, a phrase, an attitude or whatever. Right. But triggering doesn't always have to be negative. So part of it is finding the balance. Right. So it's like a dog my daughter has a rescue dog because my daughter would have like 30 if she could.
Yeah.
And they all have like Viking names. So I can't remember what this one is. I don't know. Odin, they had Odin, but he passed away and whatever. So it's pretty funny.
Okay.
But what happens is you have a rescue dog that's been beaten, neglected, whatever.
Yeah.
And then when it's around somebody that's showing it, nice stuff, it's hesitant and then it learns to overcome the fear. So my daughter sends me pictures every day of her and the dog and stuff. And so it's super cute. It's actually really empowering to think of that you can replace negative with positive, which
Exactly.
is really, really kind of the whole purpose of all that we do in sharing this, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it goes to show you if a dog can do it, we can do it too.
Heck yeah.
Right? That's the other part of it. Oh, I'm so excited, Tom. I got some new post-its. I love post-its, as you know. So I'm just rearranging my desk here. Thank you for your patience. Super thrilled to be here with you. I just want to do a little shout out. I feel like we need to do this every once in a while. If anybody's just joining us for the first time, my name is Michelle. This is my much older brother, Tom, and we are doing this together every week. Thrilled that you're here with us, and we are an open book. So if you have questions, comments, or concerns can go to Tom, questions and comments can go to me. So
Yeah.
super happy about that. And yeah, it's so funny. We have a lot more control than we think. And we're very diverse, right? Like it's amazing. Like we always have an option. Do you want to be a victim or a survivor? And we always have the option to be a survivor. It's just sometimes it takes a little bit more work, right? Than
Yeah.
other.
And there's something about confidence. There's something about I think certain times of our lives
Mhm.
we I don't know, the season just changes and all of a sudden we feel like, hey, it's okay to open my blinds and open a window and get some fresh air or whatever it would be, right?
Yeah,
But the other thing that's too, Michelle, before we get going, are you doing the questions early or later? Early?
I can do them now if you want. They're right in front of me. Or do you
Yeah.
want
So the two quick things though is that I was going to say is that with us, it may be an idea, maybe somewhere down the road, people listening now can make comments. We'll put it on the board. It may be a fun thing to do. Get to know your hosts. Get to know Tom and Michelle.
sure.
People can put some questions. We can just do, a bit of who we are. We don't have to go into all the craziness. We say whatever we want. You can say what you want. I'll say what I want. But the reason saying that is it's just good to remind people why we do this. We're not just two clowns trying to do whatever. We both, in our journeys, being brother and sister, but separate for most of our lives, we have both in different veins have been a part of helping and supporting people, right? So that would be
Yeah.
good to go.
I agree. And I'm really honestly surprised. Like, I know some of the people I know personally, like Florence, obviously our siblings, and our real,
Yeah.
the siblings that are really our siblings.
Not the
Yeah,
imaginary one.
ones that just use their names. But I'm sort of surprised that we haven't got more questions. So yeah, I totally agree. I think, yeah, post your questions, or any, whether it's topic related or just about us, is fine as well. We're not going to answer if we don't feel comfortable. I think we're both we don't have that pressure. I think the other thing is too, and this is something I find very interesting, is how similar we are, considering our environments were so much different being raised. And just let's just go down this path for a second. So there's 7 of us children, and we have a lot of similarities, which I always found was interesting. For example, the way we name our children, which is something, right? Tammy has a crystal. Roxanne has a crystal. I have Robert Kenneth. Tina has a Robert. Tina has a Kenneth. So that's really, you have an Ethan. Jimmy has an Ethan. That I find really interesting. I also always found it interesting with us 4 girls that
Not
we,
me. Not me.
not you, no, not you, that we all had our babies young. We all had the sort of, I don't think I'm speaking like wrong to share this. I don't think anybody would have a problem with it. But we have, like, we had our kids young. Between the 4 girls, we have 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 14 children between the 4 girls. So that I find is interesting. We all, until recently, we all have had really long hair. Like, there's just things that are not physical. We all have a great sense of humor. We have a weird sense of humor. So that's interesting. So besides physical things, like our mom, I find anyways, and I've heard this from people, I have a similar laugh to our mom's laugh, and then Nicole has the same laugh. So 3 generations of that same loud, boisterous, sometimes annoying laughter. Sorry, just saying. This is what I've been told. So I find all that really interesting. And then going back, oh, and then music ability. That is not me, but you, Tim, Jimmy, you all play the guitar. Tammy sings very well. Tina sings very well. Same type of music, that sort of thing. I don't know if you remember, but one time, and I think you and I went to Tina's house. Tina and Tammy had exactly the same cars. They both like had, I don't know, yellow somethings, sunflower fires, or I don't know, but they had the same car. That sort of stuff really fascinates me. And then when I think about you and I, our paths and our influences were so different, but we're still so similar, as especially as far as just getting hello, Maureen. Especially when we're talking about just getting to the core of being compassionate. I'm not saying the other ones aren't compassionate like we are, but we're just so very connected and wanting to lead, and we don't expect things in you know what I mean? Like, it's unconditional giving, I guess.
Right.
I find all that really interesting as a person who likes to study behaviors. That totally fascinates me, that we're also very similar. And I think if we weren't spread out across Canada and we were in a position, like when I win the lottery, I'll look after this. But for now, we're not in a position to like have reunions every year or anything. So I think if we got to know each other more, we would find even more similarities, which is, does that fascinate you at all, or?
Yeah, I mentioned before about a book that I took in school. I lived in Toronto, the three oldest were raised by my mom and a stepdad. And in school, this back in the I was born in 61, so it's early 70s. So I was like, you know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? So it
Sure.
was, I could play like three chords, which was awesome.
Hmm.
And just because I didn't know how to manage my trauma and stuff that I'd been through, I was into drugs and stuff like that.
Sure.
But I was smart in school, and I shared that book, Games People Play. So that was a behavioral study about our physical posturing, whatever we do, right?
Yep.
And not that you can pigeon everything in it, but yeah, I find human behavior. I was saying to a friend of mine today, I said, I'm so intrigued by our in mankind, our similarities,
Yeah.
general, but then so diverse and then so similar. Like you talk about like being separated, but we have some of these traits that's pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting to now think about our influence, our circle influence, raised what we were raised with, the people around us, family, blah blah blah, lifestyle, right?
Yep.
But then there's something, I don't know if I can say this word right, intrinsic. There's something that's just beyond that, the tangible. There's something.
That's right.
Some of it could be a bit of DNA. Like I know people that were separate from childhood, brother and sister, and they both have some of the same health issues.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
so, so that's more of a genetic thing. But yeah, it's fascinating. And as we go through this topic a little bit, it'll be interesting. See, what I hope, what me and Michele have learned, and we've all learned, but sometimes maybe we're not aware. As I get older and I look back, like you said, I look back, I go, interesting, 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 right? So it's interesting that
I was just gonna say that.
I
Interesting.
know, yeah, because I only said it 17 times, but it's just to me fascinating with our when we get older to be able to look back. There's something about experience. There's something about, and we have a different perception now. I know people that have been angry from the beginning of time till they
Yeah.
passed away,
Right.
and that's a whole thing. Like I wish when I was younger I could do a lot more behavioral studies. I've worked with people coming out of jail and prison and recovery and all that. So it's just interesting, and some makes me sad, by the way, but it's just interesting how something to overcome something or can seem so simple. It seems like a paper thin, but then for some people it's like a 10-foot cement wall.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's like they get laser focus on it and they just can't get past it. It's
Yeah.
so interesting, right? And that's
And by the way, before we get going, I just want everybody to know, I say it every time, when I'm turning this way, I'm not watching the hockey game. Hockey game's that way. Hockey game's over there.
how
But
do we know? How do we know? How do we know it's over there?
so that's my computer. That's my second computer, and that's the hockey game.
Oh. Well,
So
how do
I
I
am
know your
looking.
eyes don't go two different direction? How do I really know that?
That would be our brother Tim when he was younger. He had guys that went different way. Anyway, he's fine now.
Perfect. He's good.
He'll never be on social media, so he'll never know.
We're fine.
But you had two questions. You had two questions for me.
I do. Actually, I usually do 3 every week. So
You do three.
I do 3. Okay, so reading or watching videos?
Watching videos.
Me too. Me too. University of YouTube all the way. Tattoos or piercings? Own it, Tom. Let's hear.
Um, I have 2 tattoos. One was I had to get cover over, and that's a funny story I'll tell another time. But I have one tattoo that I just got a few years ago when I was sick,
Oh, neat.
and you haven't seen this.
No.
So it's got Emily at top. My oldest daughter's 30. It's got Ethan. He's got black writing. Then it's my
Okay.
2 grandkids, Isabella and Charlotte.
Oh my gosh. I love that. So no piercings at all?
No, I had a piercing when I was 13, but I did it in the wrong ear. I didn't do it. My uncle did it. They didn't know what was correct right ear or wrong ear back then, but I took it out after it happened Saturday, and I took it out on Monday.
After you got flagged?
I got flagged.
There you go.
And I was flagged for a couple of months after that.
If it's the uncles you introduce me to.
Oh my word, yeah. Okay, so that's two questions.
Funny. Okay, and then one more. Cash or card? Cash or plastic? That's a big question
So
right now.
when you say plastic, are you talking debit or credit?
Either or. So I guess more debit, right? So are we paying
Yeah.
with plastic more? Yeah, not credit card, it doesn't matter.
Credit cards, that's a whole nother topic for all of us down the road.
Yeah.
But it's more convenient to do debits. My wife does the app on her phone, which I'm not there yet. But you know what? When we had a big bank thing happen a few years back. Do you remember that? Where something. What's that?
The Rogers, where all the.
No. Was it that? I can't remember. It was a few years back, but all of a sudden you had no way of getting money out of your banks.
Right.
So I keep cash in the house.
Good. Yeah, I agree. Like it is convenient to use the card. But I find two things. One, I want to keep cash alive. Not that but I'd like to be part of that, trying to keep cash alive. But I find I control my spending a lot better when I do cash. If I have $40, I'll make that $40 stretch, as opposed to, that debit. It can really add up. I used to be able to think, well, service charges will keep me under control, but that's not a thing anymore. I mean, I pay my flat bank fees, but I do think, and this isn't our topic or anything, but I think it's important that we keep cash alive if we can. So I try to make my effort to do it, especially for smaller things. I mean, the world we live in, you could never go 100% cash, right? You'd never get a paycheck or whatever, but I try to have that balance. And with having like the grandchildren, it's nice to have the cash, because then I can set a little budget if we go for because you don't know, but like where we live right, for all the Sarnia people, just outside of Mitten Village. So Alice and Gemma, like I'll give them $10 each, and we go for a walk. And actually here where I live, there's a little clothing store almost across the street. It's called Lily Ann's, and they can buy a sweater or whatever, a little outfit for under $10. It's like she gets them through liquidation or something. I'm not sure how. So that's exciting, where I can, teach them the lessons, and besides the math, the value of $1 and all that stuff. I think that's important as well. So balance is key on that.
It's interesting, when we were in England, I think it's 11 years now. What? And so we went to England to help out a friend. That's a long story, but anyway, we went to help out a friend. 17-year-old son took their life. So we went to help them out. They were church people, so they're religious. So they were going to go take what's called a sabbatical. We were going to help with stuff. And when we were in England, I don't even know how we did it. There was a group, and it's a church group, it's totally non-religious, and it was called CAP. And it was in England, it was Christians Against Poverty, whatever. I can't remember the fourth letter of the second P. But what they did this course, and then we learned it, then we offered it to whatever. They were funded by the English government, but they did exactly what you're talking about. They said, have cash when you get your paycheck, put it in separate envelopes. Like it was just, it was practical. Right now, that's going to seem like, oh, that was like the 70s, right? And it wasn't. It was like, right. But we live. We'll talk about AI sometime too, and get our thoughts and opinion. That's a whole another one. But we live in a culture that we're so dependent on technology that at some point, either just by natural things going wrong, a sun flare, whatever,
Yep.
or corrupt people trying to manipulate and control stuff,
Yep.
hackers.
Yep.
At some point, if we're totally dependent on it, we're going to have a hard time at some point.
Yeah.
Might not be tomorrow, might be a year, 5 years, 10 years. So part of it is, learning to live within the means that you have, and that's really hard today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think having discipline and cash takes stress off your life, right? So, but anyways,
yeah, and I think we've had those little blips. Like there's a year or two ago, it was Rogers went down, none of the debit machines and bank machines worked, and then before that, I don't think it hit BC, but when I don't know, like 10 or so years ago, when the whole East Coast lost the power grid. Do you remember? I don't think it affected
I
you.
remember. I was a newsie back then. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a really big deal. And lucky for us, excuse me, we had some cash that day. But when we went to the variety store, just so funny because it's so old school. We went to the variety store, they were open, and they knew us, and everybody they knew, they were actually writing down like a list of what you owe, which is something that's really like talk about your sense of community, right? That was really
early night. That's back in the Western days, having a chit, right?
a chit, yeah. Holy chit.
See how smart I am? Shit happens.
Yeah. Wow, all those Canadians out of work, and then there's you.
Then there's us. Yeah, it's we're in a crazy time here in the sense of we have so much stimulation and things and stress and pulled in so many different directions, not depending on your personality, right? That's
the struggle.
that kind of thing. But we have so many things that like are hyped up. I mean, I think hyped up even more and more after COVID, right? And we've talked privately about some of the stressors and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But in it, and Michele and I are not going to talk, at least at this point, we're not going to talk about our conspiracy theories of control. And everybody here would know that money is king and corporations have the money and whatever.
Absolutely.
So believe that, right? But we it's just hard. And this thing about kindness we've talked about before too.
Yeah.
Michele brought it up. Michele did her trip. Again, we'll share that story another time. When you learn the habits and then the commitment to thinking not just of yourself, but being aware and realizing you can help people. Maybe it's not financially, maybe it's with time, or maybe it's just with kind thoughts, a smile. We talked about that. But once you start becoming more active in it, because we live in a society is like, no, don't think about anyone else. Think of you, think of you, think of you. Like I'm shocked. Speaking of lottery, and we will get to our topic, by the way, people. We had like a big group of people. But you know what? You know what I find interesting with the lottery. Like I think the Lotto Max yesterday. I just remember seeing the new on. I saw it on Facebook or something like that. $70 million.
I know, wild.
And the Powerball in the States, $1 billion, whatever. I'm going. That's capitalism. But you know what? Like, wouldn't 70 million make more sense to have 70 winners of a million?
Sure. Or 35 of two, because a million isn't what it used to be. But I totally agree. Because what can you like even out? So I have a plan for when I win, and you're in it, everybody's in it. Oh my gosh. And even after everybody's in it, after I fulfill all my dreams, I have a couple different things I'd like to do as far as giving back to my community. Obviously, I'd help all my brothers and sisters. I would help her mom. There's a lot of things that I would do. I'd still have a whole bunch of money. Like it's just such a ridiculous amount. And it's so funny because when I buy my tickets, I'll say to the guy, sometimes he'll say good luck. And now that he knows I'll share, he wishes me a lot of luck. But but I'll say that to him like, that's such a crazy amount of money. And that's your starting money. So you're getting interest, like it's just rolling, 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 rolling. If you're smart with your money, there's no
Which
reason why you shouldn't be able to share it and do good in the world.
and the two things. So I just did math on my other phone. So $1 million, which isn't a lot these days, you can barely buy an apartment in Vancouver.
Yes,
Um,
valid
but
point.
$1 million is $1,000. So in it,
Wow.
if you think the way you live, so maybe you're not buying a beach and an island and a jet and whatever, right?
Right.
But if you think about it, um, the the whole idea of like use $1,000. So all of a sudden, if you wanted to, let's say 10%, you take $100,000. You say, I'm going to show kindness
Yes.
in different ways.
Yep.
The whole idea of giving. I always tell people this in different circles that I've been in. Like people can give to get,
Yep.
which they give. Like that's what the lottery is a little bit. The lottery money goes towards helping community hospitals,
It
all that,
does.
which I like. I actually
Me
makes
too.
me feel better about.
Yep.
But when you can give to somebody who can't give back to you,
That's right.
there's I think there's again intrinsic. There's something beyond the physical thing, and the more we learn to do that, like buying somebody a coffee,
Yeah.
like the guy behind you, and don't wait for him to thank you. Like I said, like
Ah, yes.
whatever. I try to race out of there. I actually don't. I don't even look in my mirror. I don't want to see them.
That's right. I'm the same, right? That's right. I just
Yeah,
want to be a ghost in the night.
yeah. And have you ever had somebody buy you a coffee at Timmy's?
Yeah, actually. And I believe that's karma,
How
that
did that?
I great.
How did you feel?
I felt fabulous. And I'm gonna add something. The timing was always spectacular because I live paycheck to paycheck just like everybody else. I'm counting my change. There's times where I don't go for a coffee because I don't have any change and I'm not going to, scan my debit card for $2.75 or $3, whatever it is now. So I've also acknowledged that because I do, without going down another path, I do believe there's no coincidences and there's a synchronicity between people that are open to receive. I'm very open to receive. I'm open to give, I'm open to receive. So I think that it's just, yeah, it's never when I have a whole bunch of money. It's never usually on my payday. It's the day before payday or whatever. So I find a lot of value in that. And it makes me feel so good. And it validates that I'm on the right path on my, giving journey or tithing or whatever you want to call it. So, and it's
Yep.
funny because I know some people that don't do it and they're very vocal about nobody's ever bought them a coffee. I'll just
Yeah.
leave that right there. So I'm like, interesting. I've had quite a few. Thank you very much.
I
Yep.
think my funniest. I may have shared this story when we talk about kindness. Story was I was at Save On, and the guy in front of me was an old Dutch man, probably 80, big guy. He was buying one 4 liter of club soda. That was it.
Okay.
He's in front of me. So I tell the lady, the cashier at the till, I said, hey, I'm going to buy this club soda. And he goes, no, no, no. I've broken English. I've worked my whole life. Nobody has to give me anything. I earn it. Like just this mentality, right?
Sure.
I said, no, no. I said, like, I'll just put it in mind. So the cashier didn't know what to do. I won eventually. Then, and I understand that I didn't do it to cause friction. I just want to show kindness.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because as I'm walking, he's ahead of me. I only had 3 or 4 things, and it was a club soda, so it was like 2.49, whatever it was, right?
Sure.
And all of a sudden, walking to my car in the parking lot, and he's walking in front of me. He turns around, see me, and he starts talking to me. And he
Mm,
goes, "Oh, like we came from, tell me a bit of his history." And I find that intriguing again because this is a Dutch dude raised in this community family, awesome, and out here awesome family commitments. Like they live for their next generation, right? They work hard. Um, but all of a sudden, somebody invaded a little bit his bubble,
yeah.
and it goes to what my saying is: you know what you know, you don't know what you don't know. all of a sudden something that's not his experience intrigues him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Michelle, I've talked to, I bet you in, I don't know how many years, right? So buying coffee for people, and I've done this kind of on a social media thing a few years ago. I bet you I had about 100 people, or say, anyway, say 100, just for a number, people that commented who I didn't know. And they
Yeah,
said, it made me feel good.
exactly.
And some of them said, I don't need money. That $2 isn't going to break me.
Right, right.
Made me, it made me feel acknowledged,
Yep,
and I didn't have to earn it. It had nothing to do with who I am. It was just somebody who randomly showed some kindness.
that's
So
right. Exactly. It's so huge. And it's such a big ripple effect because you feel good, you did it. He feels good after, after he's accepted it. And then he probably went home and told his wife. And then he told other people. And then you told people. So that ripple effect is so absolutely huge. Um, and it's so much better when you don't like, not that I wouldn't bless my friends, because I absolutely would, but it feels so much better when it's somebody you don't know. And there's actually myself and my friend Kate. There's a few of us that have done we've done some different things like that where we get some inspirational cards and we sometimes we put stickers in them. We never say who they're from. And there's been different times where we put gift cards in them, money in them, different things like that. My friend Kate, she was going to Ireland, and I don't know if she comes to our show our group every once in a while. But yeah, it was Ireland she went to, and it was right before Canada Day. So she made all these Canada Day cards and stickers and tattoos, and she handed them all out to people she didn't know in Ireland, which was pretty cool. So those positive ripples, I know I said it before and I stand by it. We're in a kindness revolution. Screw the
yeah,
government, sorry, but we're just
yeah,
taking matters into our own hands and we're going to help lift each other up. I love it.
yeah. So it's not only a kindness revolution; it's going to be a kindness resolution.
That's right. Exactly. I was,
Hashtag.
yes, that's right. High five. Exactly. Very good. And
So
so
this leads into success, right?
well, I was just going to, great segue into our topic. Yes, exactly right. So I had posted on the page that we were going to talk this week about creating a mindset for success. So I have an article I'm going to share. And after we're done, and I'm not reading it, I'm just going to go through the key points, but I will attach it to the Facebook page. You can look at it at your own convenience, if you will. So this is a website. It's called makeheadway.com, and how to build a success mindset and achieve your ambitions. So I thought it was a great way to start. Don't get caught up in the hockey game, okay? So
No, I'm making notes. Making notes.
so I think your first question to ask yourself is, what is success? Right? Sometimes we have the bar set too high, we have unrealistic expectations. So I think embracing that, like there's a lot of things that I would like to be or do, but it's just not unrealistic. Or that didn't even make sense. I canceled each word out. It's just not realistic. And so, like, what does success mean to you? And I don't have the answer. Dom doesn't have the answer. But do you feel like it's financial success that you're questing for? Is it professional success? And then again, having your eyes open, like professional success. What does that really entail? Right? Does that mean it's the paycheck that goes with professional success, but you're not taking into consideration that maybe you're on call 24/7? Or is it something where, there's different things professionally you can get into that are limited by time, right? Like there's only, no matter what you do, there's always just going to be 24 hours in the day. So, is it a residual income? Is it, you want to have certificates on the wall? Is that something that resonates as success for you? And then the third thing that's mentioned in here is creative success, right? So that's a little bit different. It comes in many forms. Is it writing a novel, recording an album, creating a song, an art piece? Then there's personal success. Maybe it's, and this is a really interesting thing these days, do you feel like success is attached to relationships? The days of working at the same company for 40 years is pretty much gone. Like there's the odd person that has that sort of success, but it's not very often. Same as, is it in relationships where you feel like your first marriage should be your only marriage? They say that now we live in a world where it's a multiple monogamous relationship. So you're not being unfaithful, but it's very common to have multiple long term relationships, not at the same time, but I'm not judging, but back to back, right? So sometimes, and it sort of ties in with what Tom was saying, that sometimes what happens is we have this image of what we think the success is, and it might come from your parents, it might come from your environment when you were growing up, but maybe it's not realistic. Maybe it's like now you're seeing a lot of that with kids not moving out at an early age, staying at home, the dream of owning a home, those sort of things. So maybe you have to adjust the bar. It's not a bad thing ever to adjust the bar. So that's something to think about. And then it shows 7 steps in this article, and I'm just going to go over them briefly. So, how to build your success mindset in 7 steps. So, the first one we just sort of covered, find your definition of success. If we're just flying by the seat of our pants, Lord knows where we're going to end up, right? So, you want to have a plan, which goes into number 2. Set some goals. Baby steps are still steps. You have to keep that in mind. Everything is going to have a series of steps to get to where you want to be. And I'm not telling you anything that's new simply because we've done that with everything in our life, right? When you were in high school, you took math 1 before you could get to math 2, before you could get to math 3. If you're working out, which remind me, Tom, I have to tell you something about working out after on here, but I want to get through this first. But if you're working out, you don't go and say, okay, I'm starting running today. I'm going to go do a 5K. Is that realistic? No. Is it achievable? Probably not. And if you do pull it off, you're going to be hurting tomorrow. So, set some goals. Keep it realistic. Oh, look at Tom. I found a picture of you. Do you see that on the screen?
Hey,
Looks just like
I'm,
you. Oh my
I'm wearing the same loafers.
Yeah, man, get some socks, would you? Now that'll be my next question, socks or no socks. Okay, so then challenge yourself. If we're always going for the easy option, there are no challenges. And we need to challenge ourselves. When we challenge ourselves and we succeed, that's where confidence comes from. That's what sets us up for the next step. Then the fourth thing, look for a mentor. So once you've figured out what success looks like, and it could be on any of those fields, and start looking for somebody else who's already achieved what it is that you're interested in, right? Whether it's a human or it's somebody that has a presence online that you can follow. Go to do that. Go to biography.com, look it up. All the people that we see that are famous, they're not one shot and done, and they're famous. Like how many tryouts did they go to and get turned down? Or, this is real life. How many times did the invention fail until that one time that something actually worked? And when you look around your environment, everything you see was not the perfection it is now. Like the first cup that was made, pretty sure it didn't look like my lovely cup I'm drinking
Mhm.
today, right? So everything takes time, it's a process. And then number five, we've talked about this on a whole weekly check in, minding your self talk. I can be a human excuse factory. I can talk myself in or out of anything. So I need to rein myself in, stop that stinking thinking, and really focus. So, for example, they show some. So, negative. So, if I decide I want to try something, my negative voice could say, oh, I just can't do this, but I need to switch it up. I'm capable of anything I put my mind to. And that's that's not me BSing myself. That's the reality. In all my years, I've accomplished a lot of things. I've also fallen down a lot, got lots of gravel in my knees, but I've also accomplished a lot. And the reason why I accomplished it was I stuck with it. I kept learning and growing. Maybe it took me a little bit longer, but I did. So then the other example, I'm not good enough. I love the positive response. I'm working hard to move forward and be the best I can be. When I'm in my wellness groups, I tell my members, as long as you're a little bit better today than you were yesterday, you're winning, right? That can look like anything. Just any improvement is good. So that's very important. And then number six, don't fear failure. We've all failed before. I'm sure I'm not shocking you. I certainly have, but you know what? I haven't let that keep me down, whether it's relationships, it's work stuff, whatever it is. You can't fear it. And it's such an integrated part of life. How do we learn if we never have a failure? Right? Like it's so important that we do that. And then number seven, the last one, invest in your skills and knowledge. Learn learn about what it is that you want to do, learn about the success, because with knowledge comes confidence. So if you're, and I don't know about everybody else, but like when I get a job interview somewhere, the first thing I do is I creep that company. I find out what they do. I find out whatever I can online, so that when I walk in there, I feel confident that at least I know what is expected of me. At least I know the size of the company. Am I going to be a name that's remembered, or am I just going to be an employee number? Which I'm not saying I wouldn't still apply for the job, but it helps my perspective, right? So educating yourself. We talked before about, if you want to get into construction, for an example, go and volunteer at like Habitat for Humanity. Go do something like that. You're obtaining some skills. You're also obtaining some contracts and some contacts. And then they'll look and they'll be like, hey, that Tom guy, he was working really hard and he was volunteering. I bet he'll work even harder for some bucks. And next thing you know, you've got a job and you've got a mentor. So see if you're not fearing the failure, then you'll step forward and sort of circling back. Well played, Tom. Circling back to that whole being in the right place at the right time, synchronicity. You're not going to be in the right place at the right time if you're on your couch. I really am a strong believer in the law of attraction. And I also believe if you want to attract your dream job, they're not going to come find you at your door. I'm pretty sure that that's accurate information. So I thought that was a really good article. And I'm going to share it on the Facebook page. And Tom, what's your thoughts?
Okay, so this is normal for me, Michelle, and when we share, yeah, try to read it. I'll read it out
Yeah.
because my print, I don't write my printing.
Okay.
But you, that's a great article.
Thank you.
So here's a few of the thoughts, right?
Yep.
So you talked about the bar. So one of the things I wrote right after that, I put down makeheadway.com, so I'll check it out.
Okay.
The thing for self-confidence, and the funny thing is we may have confidence in certain things. I think one of my sisters is on. I'm not saying who she is. No, we're not gonna do that. But she
Sure.
and her story like it's personal, so I'm not busting her or whatever.
Yeah.
And she had to overcome adversity to be successful, and she's successful now, right? So she's worked hard. She didn't let life circumstances get her down. So she went after the thing, right? So I put down get a win, low bar. So a win. My sister may be really successful in ABC,
Yeah.
but I'm just making this up. She may go, you know what? I'm not very artistic. I don't know. I'm just making this up, right? But you know what? I'm pretty successful. I've done well. I want to learn how to paint, or I want to learn how. It could be anything, right? Because when you stop, somebody said this. I don't know who it was. Some reel or TikTok. Um, something about if you don't grow, you like die. I don't know, some rhyming thing, right? But get a win, low bar. Find something. Set a realistic goal. Don't set it and go like, oh, say you have sleep issues. Yeah, I'm only getting 6 hours of sleep. Okay, my goal is to get 6 hours in 1 minute. Like, be like, my trainer at the gym challenges me, but he does it very respectfully and I know he's compassionate, right?
Yeah.
So get a win. So my challenge to me for the group, and whoever's watching on YouTube later, find first investigate yourself, but get a win. Get a win. Low bar. Set something, an attainable goal. So in business, me and Michelle know about business. I'm a territory sales manager. I've been nothing but successful in any of my sales experience in the food service. The reason I was successful, I was a customer. I owned and managed coffee shops or restaurants. So when I became into sales, I understood the other side. So get a win, low bar. Then you know what? Get another win.
Yeah.
Get another. Me and Michelle talk about nutrition and stuff like that she's been in like forever and helping people. You don't have to take over Rome in a day.
Right.
But if you have goals for yourself, just get a win, because then it inspires you, right? So here's the other thing I put: change your mindset. So in the world that I work in, besides sales, I work in counseling, and it's new. It's not new for me. I've gotten lots of counseling. I've taken lots of courses, so I feel I'm intrigued because I like people.
Yeah.
But you know what? Change your mindset. So I had to change my mindset when I invested into learning about depression or PTSD and all that. I was in the midst, it was just right after having cancer, and I was like severely depressed. I was bedridden for several months, right? But I don't know why it took whatever long it took, but at some point I was intrigued. I want to understand why I was going through this. Change your mindset. And like Michelle said about stinky thoughts or whatever her words are, if you're aware and you go like, that guy cut me off and I just cursed him out, and Michelle says, we don't know what his life has been like. It doesn't give me an excuse to be a bad driver, by the way. But if we're a good driver, then we'll respond correctly. We don't want to let other people's shits. Yeah. That's our word for the day. You don't want to let, you can control you can't control other people. So when you learn to change your mindset, if you watch any of the people that inspire you, whoever they are, right? Inspiration's key. Michelle said this.
Yeah.
If you do not, our goal to do this, we're not famous. We're people like everybody else here, been through life experience. We just come to a point in our life where we're going, you know what? I want to help at least one other people. I want to share what I've learned the hard way and what I've learned through knowledge, right? Yeah. But here's the key about inspiration, right? It's, I don't know how to say this. This is countercultural, right? It's about being inspired so you can inspire. Right. And it's not about being perfect, because being perfect is not, there's not even artificial intelligence is perfect, right?
That's right.
So you have to understand that you're a human being going through life through things that you can't control. And even when you lose control, that you can take back control, right? But I'm going to tell you right now, the more, and Michelle and I maybe shared this privately and publicly, I have people that have come back to me that have said, Tom, like, man, you really inspired me. And I'm going like, I don't remember talking to you, right? And I'm not being rude, but part of where you think you sit in front of a classroom. I've spoken once at a university a long time. I don't know why. Freaked me out, by the way. Um, I don't, as I get older, I don't think that, oh, I inspired those 100 students. And I was talking about mercy and kindness, by the way. I was talking about, and this was an Asian para group on university that were second generation that were being bullied, that were being picked on, right? This is like 15 years ago, right? But when I get older, I'm going, it's not about when I think I'm cool and I say all the right words and I don't whatever. Sometimes when you least expect it, somebody will come up and say, you know what, that really meant something. So I'm going to tell you why this is important. Michelle and I know, because we're grandparents, and those that are grandparents on here, you'll know this. If you're a parent, we're not just discounting you.
Yeah.
But when you become a grandparent and you're older, and you see, like Michelle says, about $5 or a toonie or a cuddle or reading a book or holding a hand,
Yeah,
like there's so much power.
that's right.
And not only when we get to our age giving that, we like we receive, like it's a two-way. I want to look on here. I want to see. Okay, we have a friend. I have a friend that comes on here once in a while. She'll probably look at this later. Her and her husband a few years ago. I might get this wrong. They were trying to have kids, and they couldn't have kids, and they had the ability to adopt. Um, a, I think they adopt the brother first. It was a child that had been fetal alcohol syndrome, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then I think they got the sister a year later. And my friend suffered with severe depression, but she's kind and she's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I see now just in her posts with her and her husband how like it almost makes me tear up. This girl used to work for us. She was a waitress for me 1,000 years ago, right? And there's something in us that we're I think we are made to be kind.
Oh yeah.
And pass the baton. But this culture contradicts that. It's about you. You don't need $1 billion lottery. You need to win $2 billion lotteries.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't need one house. You need a house. And I'm not judging people that are successful. Please don't hear it.
Of course.
Because I know people are successful that are incredibly kind, right? But anyways, go on. You're going to say something.
Well, yeah, I totally agree. And I think, I don't know, I got a whole bunch of stuff running through my head actually right now. But it's true. And I think it's the world that hardens us to it, where we don't get back to the basics. And you're a great example of the guy that resisted your kindness, right? And so you, unfortunately, especially right now, we seem to be seeing one extreme or the other, right? So people either very closed off, non-trusting, divided, terrible, like, the pushing of division between people is at a maximum right now. But I think a lot of people, and I will make a tinfoil hat at some point, that I can wear on here with you. But I think that people are waking up to that, and they're realizing, like, oh, there's so many things I can't control. What I can focus on is growing tomatoes in my garden and sharing it with my neighbors or whatever. And if I can actually circle back to the one thing you said about find a win. So this is a funny thing when I'm coaching my workshops, and quite often I'll tell the members to write a list, whether it's a to-do list or whatever it is. But when you're writing a list, the very first thing should be write a list. And then when you get to the bottom of the list, you can scratch that first thing off because you've achieved it, right? And it sounds so cheesy, but it still makes you feel good because that is a thing, right? So I'll ask them, like, what went well this week or what you've done for yourself, that sort of thing. If the only thing that went well this week that you did for yourself is you met us on Wednesday night at 5 o'clock or 8 o'clock, that's a thing. That's a win. Because I really sincerely hope that we're maybe creating you think a little bit, making you feel like you're part of our community. And, we're virtually hugging you, if that's a thing, like you're in our circle. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think the way we rate or classify so many things in our life. And what you were saying about buying all the stuff. If you're buying all that stuff because it gives you joy, rock on. But if you're buying all that stuff because you think you're competing with the Joneses, then rethink it. It's not worth it, right? Because it's whatever makes your heart hum, that's what matters,
So interesting you said that. So the last thing I was saving to the end,
right?
and you have a quote for us probably, right?
I do. It's right in front of me. You want me to read it?
Good. No, we're going to save it. Suspense.
Okay. All right.
So, so the other thing is this, right? And I wrote it down, but I'm gonna split them. I'm gonna shift them, right? I deal with some of the guys that I'm working with counseling, and I call myself a support person. Just that's another long story, but um, in the area that I am, and probably out there too, there's people that really need therapy and support and all these things. And like they need somebody who's got some type of schooling. And out here, some friends of mine are psychologists.
Mhm.
Um, they paid, their $100,000 for schooling, and they charge $250. And I have a lot of friends that can't afford that, so they don't have. And there's, you can have your friends, your peers, and your family, but sometimes you need somebody who's got some experience in it, right? So I do it like way cheaper than that. It's just kind of I want to do it's my exit thing, right? I have a guy who's a very successful realtor in Vancouver. So anybody who's a realtor in Vancouver, um, the cheapest home, like any type of townhouse in Vancouver, is a couple $1 million, right? This guy is successful. This guy can afford the $200 and $250 therapist.
Mm.
Somehow, last year somebody told him about me.
Oh, good.
So this goes to do what this goes to my question. This goes what you talked about. This guy, um, probably he's probably a bit younger than me, probably 50s. This guy's successful. This guy has made millions of dollars. Probably before COVID, probably was making $1 million a year. Easy, right? Um, Driven by work, driven by money because he felt his identity, but lost his family, lost his kids. The kids were older, right?
Yeah.
And all and like Michelle said, these things aren't my guitar, TV, whatever we have. Those things are not immoral. They're just objects, right? A
Right.
TV or a computer can be good for you or bad for you. It doesn't matter. Or it could be like great. But this guy I've been working with, and he's not on here, so I can say this. He pays me $60 an hour. So he's cheap, made a lot of money. He's cheap. Just throwing that out there, but it's okay. Maybe that's how he learned. But going through and trying to find out, like he's trying to find who he is. And so after 8 months, and I, even though I talk a lot here, I do listen, and then I kind of make some notes, maybe ask a question. I'm not trying to fix people in a day.
No.
So this was a question I asked him last February. I said, in all of this success, multi cars, yacht, I think he owns property in Jamaica. I don't know wherever he owns property, right? Hawaii, whatever. And I says, after all this time, I says, do you love who you are? The second question, do you love what you do? But you can mistakenly work hard for what you do to surround yourself with things that you love, but you wrestle through loving yourself.
Right.
And it goes back to the whole thing about we need to understand we're not perfect.
Right.
Michelle and I working through health issues, probably other people in the group working through health issues.
Yeah.
And as we get older, they become more, but the thing is what do you bring with you at the end? You want to get to the end, and you want to have these incredible memories. And it could include money like that. It doesn't have to. It could,
Sure.
You're going to own a house or not own a house, or have a white picket fence or whatever. I don't care, right?
Yeah.
But part of it is getting down to the root of understanding do you love yourself? And I don't mean that in a weird way. I mean that in, are you gonna look in the mirror and be able to go, you know what? I love myself enough to ABC. And it may be to stop BSing to yourself.
Yep.
No, stop looking in the mirror and you're trying to be some Hollywood, you're trying to be Brad Pitt.
Right.
Get rid of that. Or stop looking in the mirror and think that you're the Christmas Carol Tommy begging for whatever he was, food, right?
Right.
There's a thing about going, I'm not going to let my circumstances dictate who I am. And Michelle said, there's lots of successful people out there work their ass off. Steve Harvey, who I love, because I grew up with Family Feud, like before him, right? But I watched some of his stuff. This guy was living in his car.
Yeah.
This guy has had failed marriages. And he inspires people not because he's perfect, but because he's learned to be real with what he knows in that moment, right? So, anyways, do you love yourself? And if you do love yourself, do you love what you do? And if you don't love what you do, making good money is fine. But if you don't love what you do, you love the one job you do that you're on the phone all the time?
It's not my
Oh,
favorite
that's all your
job.
job.
That's not my favorite job. So it's funny, because I was just saying that to somebody earlier, is that I love talking on the phone to the people. It's the working from home, sitting in the chair, that whole, so it's not my favorite. But the wellness coaching, like before COVID, that was my full-time job. That's where my heart is. And the tie-dye and different other things that I do, my Sarnia rocks, all that, that is totally with where my heart is. And if I can sort of circle back a little bit, it's so interesting what you were saying, because I think we all know people that have got to where they think the top is of their career expectations or goals, and they give it all up and they go and they dig wells in another country or start a nonprofit or do something else. And that is such a clear indicator, that they've tapped out. They got to a part where they realize that, whether it's because they work for corporations or whatever that is, that they just, or the pressure or the stress, like, if we, anybody who's been on call, I know I carried a pager for a while once upon a time when I was a dining room supervisor in a hotel. Never do that again. That was it,
Mm.
right? Or being on salary, pros and cons. So again, sometimes we think the top looks one way, and it really doesn't. And then in our 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s, we're recreating ourselves, right? So it's so interesting. And I see that more and more, where people are like, yeah, I worked, like here, people work in the valley, the chemical valley. Well, you're a number with an employee card. Nothing personal, anybody who watches, but it is what
Yeah.
it is. So sometimes, and of course, they've saved, like they're financially able to do this. But quite often, you'll see that guy give that up and go and start doing art, or turn into a professional photographer, or work where I work doing the phone stuff, because they can drop their bags at the door, no pun intended, and they're not carrying that responsibility, right? So that's really interesting too. And I think, especially right now, we're just seeing more and more of that, people creating, and again, on their own terms, creating big changes, because at the end of the day, just being a hamster on the wheel, that's never a positive experience, right? You end up having a heart attack and going flop, flop, flop.
And I think the thing is, if you so I've been in the music thing. I've done lots of music. Ran a music venue that was all about Canadian independent artists that came across Canada. Some great musicians and stuff like that. Struggling artists, because in the sense that with COVID too, taking out the live music scene, but it's coming back. But our food service industry in Canada is suffering. I think we had the highest laid off amount. I like stats, kind of nerdy, right?
Yeah.
But where part of what it is do what you love, find out how to do what you love. And if it's not your primary income, that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Like my son wants to be a scientist and he loves science and he's going to spend, I don't know, we figured out schooling's like, I don't know, over 100,000. Anyway, he wants to be a scientist, loves the stars and that, right? And that's great. And he's fortunate that once he gets that degree in that, it'll be a good paying job. It's kind of scientist, right? But I know people that love waiting on tables. They love people, right?
Sure.
So figure out, but you got to take step one. That's that low bar thing, right?
Exactly.
But and the thing is, if we I want to say something here. I wrote down. I forgot about it. Okay, here, Michelle. Here's a thought. We said before this, so we want to be vulnerable in that, right? In our group, which we love, and we have a group of you watching. Then there's a group that watch it later. Our goal isn't just to have you guys listen to us. Our heart, and Michelle and I were talking about, is that we hope it doesn't have to happen next Wednesday, but the goal is to have you guys kind of, if it's through chat or on the wall, like to invest something. And some people are scrollers through Facebook or social media and they don't say anything. I understand that. Right now in the world, we have a lot of, not with social media, but we have a lot of social anxiety, a lot of that, just a lot of that. And so, and I deal with people that are extroverts that are dealing with that. But we want you, I want to challenge you or encourage you. There's a better word saying it. I want to encourage you, if you're part of our group, try to do two things. Try to post something, anything that inspires you. Anybody else, if somebody says something inspire, we've been really good. We're not about criticizing that somebody likes blue and you like red. So we've been really good. This group's been so good, right?
Yeah.
So either do that. So I'm asking you to come out of your bubble a little bit. So either share something with us that inspires you. It could be anything. It could be food. It could be people. It could be movies. But I want you to type in the first time, or invite a family or a friend, or I don't know, someone on your Facebook who you kind of know.
Yeah.
Give them an invitation to the group, because our goal in doing this isn't just to chat. A little bit it is, right? But our heart is that it's not a me and Michelle thing, but we're inspiring people to, I don't know, change, grow. Yeah. So quote of the day, my sister.
Okay, so before I do that, also, just so you know, if you're watching this after the fact and so you realize it's recorded, that's fine. But if you still comment in the comments, we still know and we can reply from there. So, and when you put that comment in, it's going to go at the time so that it ties in with our conversation. Also, if you watch us on YouTube, please like and subscribe, and you can comment on there as well. So the quote for today is, success is a journey, not a destination. Bam.
Love it.
Very good. All right.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. We're enjoying the 18-degree weather out here.
13 here. We're okay.
That's pretty good. Perfect. Yeah. My daughter in Alberta is -10.
Oh, she can keep it. I'm sorry.
So, okay.
All right.
See everybody next week.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Don't forget how awesome, capable, and amazing you are. And
if
you think about it this week and you would like to do a random act of kindness for a stranger, a non-stranger, we're just making up words here. Please feel free to share that as well. You might inspire someone else. You never know. So
100%.
Again, see you next week, everybody. Have a good one. And I got to put my glasses on so I can see what the heck I'm doing. Very good. And
cut.